Hi, I'm Maddie Harlan from Permaculture magazine, and I'm at the National Permaculture Convergence, and I'm with Jasmine Dale, who, how would you describe yourself?
Well, I have been a permaculture teacher for about 10-12 years, but I was an active practitioner. I sort of regenerated 7 acres in that time. But now, because I'm in a transition phase, so at the moment I'm actively writing and I'm being an author, and I'm also mentoring some projects as well.
Okay, so I went to your workshop yesterday and we did a whole exercise about walking through the landscape, and instead of intellectually, noting and analysing what was there, we were there to open all of our senses fully and experience where we were on the land from that perspective. And I wondered if you would share with our permaculture media viewers some of the techniques of that process, and also why it's so important, not just to be doing our strategic stuff in our heads, but in a more fully embodied way.
Okay, well, partly the first time I encountered permaculture in 1999 at Crystal Waters, I was taught in the tradition of Play and With the Body by Robin Clayfield, and we hardly used any board work or handouts. There's a bit at the end, and that really, really struck me, especially being in that wild environment, that part of Australia at the time. And later then I was very influenced by Starhawk's tradition of teaching permaculture. And so when I started teaching myself, because I'm not so good at the technical gadgets and the mapping and everything, I thought of Harry Potter, play to your strengths, so I realised that, lots of influences, but crucially that things like wind and moisture, slope, all the classic things that you might be mapping, that your body is an incredibly sensitive tool for sensing and feedbacking that information. Then, of course, bringing in that it's quite common in a modern era, isn't it, to think that we're very rational, very intellectual. So there's a whole raft of stuff that brings us back to saying, what's happening here, right in me? So the techniques I do, they're quite commonly known. I picked them up over the years, and largely it's talking about sort of tuning up what I call your bodyometer. So that simplest way is just to go through each of your senses. So a classic one is to use peripheral vision, and we use some little sort of games to bring that in, to activate that.
One is being aware of wiggling your fingers but not actually looking.
That's right, that's the classic. You put them at the very periphery, and when you can't see the finger but you just see the movement, then that's when you've got your 180 degree, and that's come from largely from the wilderness schools.
Yes.
Because that's how hunter-gatherers use their vision, and lots of animals do.
Allies.
Yeah, and once we do that, it's been shown that the brainwave actually automatically drops down from a beta state, but I think it's negotiable whether it's alpha or not, but you drop down anyway, your whole energy field changes. Ones I've also picked up is like keeping eyes soft, keeping the whole body soft, which is a lot from yoga, and then looking into the far distance, middle distance, and then close by. So it's just like different ways to bring what they call sensory acuity to that particular organ. I love the taste and smell one. I always think that's good. So we start with just ourselves, and I'm always an advocate of chewing a leaf or licking the soil or those type of things. Because there's a lot we know in our deep indigenous ancestry, that sense, as people probably aware, the smell sense is very deep. So I probably guarantee that if we had some contaminated soil, some slightly dodgy soil, or some good soil, if we gave a sniff or lick, we'd probably, if we just put our minds to the side and trusted ourselves, we would actually know a hell of a lot about that.
So I'll just interject and tell you that when we were doing the exercise, I found a very black fox poo.
Did you eat it?
And I didn't lick it, but I did get down right on the ground and sniffed it, and I thought, it's going to be really stinky foxy, and I'm taking a risk. But it was a fox poo that came from the plum tree that was dropping its plums and no one was harvesting. And so it was completely odourless.
Oh, it's
Just
odourless,
very,
yeah.
very dark. So
Yeah,
a bit of an interjection.
That's really useful to know, because if it was sour or
No, it was
bitter,
it was fruity.
yeah, like Chinese medicine, they look for sour,
Yeah.
don't they, as an indicate the
Yeah,
system's
it was
out of
just
balance.
black.
So nice fruity. So Hill End Activity Centre in Oxford. Your
Good fox
your
poo.
foxes have got thriving diet and digestion.
So we've
yeah.
done licking and sniffing.
Yeah. Okay, and owl is one of my favourite. I think it's because although I'm quite good at languages, that's one of the harder bits for me in a way. And from when I was a forest school teacher, we'd often do sound maps, and if you just let yourself it sounds a bit cheesy, but I drop down, you know, and it works, and you just say to your brain, drop down, and then listening so I can hear us breathing, and then you extend it out, capture all the sounds, and you always can hear an aeroplane somewhere, and you can say,
or kids playing.
Yeah, and see if you can extend it to the real far distance, and it's a great one for if you're waiting in a queue or train station or anywhere, or any time. That's the great thing with the sensory check-ins is we could do them anywhere. No one really knows. Well, they might wonder if you were wiggling. And the sound one feels really rich. And there's, in terms of designing or putting together projects, there's actually a wealth of information in all these things, and we don't have to think, what does that mean? Just trust the brain, trust the body. And trust ourselves, because our confidence is undermined from so many different directions, and crucially the bodyometer, that's why people use the word grounding. It unites us with this bigger thing and really can help us go forward. And then the final one we did yesterday was using the feet, and so we did some tracking steps, and just different ways of putting the foot down.
Explain what they are.
Okay, well, one of them is what the Buddhists use, or as far as I know, the Buddha field people particularly, and mindful walking is going heel to toe. And if you put your hands over your ears when you're walking normally, it's a massive thud, and it's sending out warnings to every single thing in the ecosystem. Whereas when you do this sort of more gentle stepping, I think there's a much higher chance you're going to be, the things around you are going to come forward, and you're going to be open, because you're not bang, bang. And the other one, which is often called fox walk, again from the wilderness school and the tracking people, which they've taken from hunter-gatherers, is outside of the front of the foot to that inside of the front of the foot down to heel. So it's basically toe to heel. So that's another one you can do to just bring more attention to the feet, where I'm going, and crucially all of this stops the thinking happening. It's not to say we go into some dumbed down state, we go into an altered state, and people usually report on those sort of exercises that they felt a much deeper sense of what was going on. And actually then what I'm very interested in, because I believe in ecological beingness, I haven't thought of much of a better word, but deep ecology really, or interbeing, and as modern humans rushing around, how can we say more than an intellectual idea? We are connected, we are part of this, and we have a right to be here. We're not evil. We haven't done everything wrong. I really feel that's important to knock down the shame and guilt about us humans. And so when you're using the senses, you're getting a sense of me, myself, as part of all this. And I think it's very nourishing. And especially in this time of heightened anxiety, I mean, I've heard the term mentioned quite a few times over the last few months of eco-anxiety, seeing numerous people getting involved with groups, getting very grief-stricken and panicked. And I think all of us that are into permaculture, we probably 20 years ago, from my age, I'm not sure for you, but we came across the things about pollution and this and that, and we had that panic and we had that grief. And crucially, that's then why we turn to
solutions.
Yes, and that's why
balance.
We've been feeling steady. But even though I've got that, I'm still noticing, especially with things like Facebook, as if they're somehow deliberately trying to unnerve us, and up the levels go of, and I notice I wake up in the morning sometimes like this, even though I'm fully aware of the solutions and what's possible. And so then I'm thinking, well, more than ever, let's tune into our senses and our bodyometers, and the whole thing of permaculture, I think Bill Mollison said this, is it mentors us back to our indigenous ancestry by, instead of acting on instinct, though it's very rational and lots of science based, it's the toolkits mentor us back to an intuitive self.
Exactly.
And that's when we trust ourselves, know ourselves, and we can go forth, as Joanna Macy might say.
So thank you very much. If we want to know more,
Yep, I have a website, beingsomewhere.net, and I do a little bit on Twitter and Facebook, but not really. But yeah, feel free to email me. I'm always happy to discuss these things. I love these things, and yeah.
and hopefully you'll be running some events at some point.
Yeah, I've had a bit of I used to have my own training centre, an Ecovillage, and have been out of that for 18 months now. So, but I'm quite keen to put together bespoke or tailored things for people, especially if someone else wants to do the organising. I'm really up for it. Yeah, because I love it. It's when I'm in my element, when I'm out there learning from the other people.
Okay. So, Jasmine's also written a book, Permaculture Design Companion, which is a process of designing projects, land-based projects, but also people-based projects.
Yeah, you could apply it to almost anything really.
Yeah. And there's some stuff in here about embodying as well.
Yeah.
So thanks very much for talking to us today.
Thank you.
And if you've enjoyed it, please subscribe to Permaculture Media, and don't forget to press the little bell button next to the subscribe button, and then we'll let you know exactly when we send out more films into the world. Thanks for watching.